Emily sat quietly at the kitchen table, the steam from her cup of coffee curling into the cool morning air. The house was silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. It was one of those heavy silences that reminded her of how much her life had changed over the years. Her husband, James, had already left for work at the construction firm where he was a project manager. Her teenage son, Michael, was still asleep upstairs, and her daughter, Sarah, had gone to college out of state. The house that once overflowed with laughter, messy mornings, and late-night conversations now felt like an echo chamber of loneliness. Emily was 41, and though she had built what looked like a picture-perfect family life, inside, she carried a hollow ache. She and James had been married for nearly 2 decades. They shared a home, 2 kids, and a history that should have bound them close. But somewhere along the way, James became more married to his work than to her. He wasn't unkind. He was simply absent. The man who once brought her flowers just because it was Tuesday, who used to stay up late whispering dreams with her, now came home exhausted, checked his phone for emails, and collapsed into bed. Emily tried to tell herself it was just the way life worked. Responsibilities grew, bills piled up, and romance was pushed to the side. But her heart yearned for connection, for someone to see her again. It was during one of those quiet afternoons at the local bookstore cafe that she met Daniel. He was sitting at a table near the window, his laptop open but his eyes wandering over the people walking past. Emily had gone there to escape the silence of her house, to sip coffee and pretend she was still part of a world that wasn't so lonely. Daniel smiled at her as she passed, and she smiled back. That was how it began, just a smile, then a conversation. Daniel was kind, attentive, and a little younger than her. He asked questions and actually listened to her answers. For the first time in years, Emily felt seen. Their casual chats at the cafe turned into long walks through the park, then into phone calls that lasted late into the night. Emily knew she was crossing a dangerous line, but the warmth she felt when she was with Daniel was something she hadn't felt in years. One evening, sitting in the park under the fading orange sky, Emily confessed, "I feel like I'm invisible in my own home. James is a good man, but it's like I've been living beside a stranger." Daniel looked at her with a softness that made her heart ache. "You're not invisible, Emily. You're incredible. You deserve to be loved the way you want to be loved." Her heart fluttered, but beneath it was guilt. She thought of Michael and Sarah, of James, of the life they had built. Still, loneliness is a powerful thing, and soon Emily found herself in a place she never thought she'd be, falling into an affair. It wasn't about passion or excitement as much as it was about companionship. Daniel made her laugh again, reminded her of who she once was before life became routine. He reminded her that she was still a woman with dreams, not just a mother and a wife. But as their relationship deepened, so did Emily's inner conflict. Every moment she spent with Daniel was shadowed by the thought of betraying James and her children. One night, after Michael had gone to bed, James came home later than usual. He dropped his briefcase by the door and sighed, rubbing his temples. Emily, who had just gotten off a call with Daniel, felt her heart pounding with guilt. She watched James pour himself a glass of water, his face lined with exhaustion. For the first time in a while, she noticed the gray in his hair, the weariness in his shoulders, and it struck her. James wasn't absent because he didn't love her. He was absent because he was carrying the weight of their entire world on his shoulders. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, torn apart inside. Daniel filled her heart with warmth, but James had given her a life, a family, and years of devotion in his own way. She realized she was standing at the edge of a decision that could break everything. The next day, Daniel asked to see her. They met at the cafe, the place where everything had started. His eyes lit up when he saw her, but Emily felt the heaviness of truth pressing down. She held his hands across the table and said quietly, "Daniel, I can't do this anymore. I thought I was searching for love, but what I really needed was to remember who I am and what I already have. You've been so kind, but my family, they need me. And I need them too." Daniel's smile faded. He nodded slowly, though his eyes carried disappointment. "I understand, Emily. I just hope you remember that you deserve happiness too." Tears filled Emily's eyes. "I know. And I'm going to fight for it, with my family. Walking away from Daniel was one of the hardest things she'd ever done, but deep down, Emily knew it was right. She went home that evening, sat James down at the kitchen table, and for the first time in years, she opened her heart. She told him everything, her loneliness, her longing, the distance between them. She didn't confess about Daniel in detail, but she confessed enough to let James know how close she had come to losing herself. James sat silently, his jaw tightening as she spoke. For a moment, Emily thought he would walk away. But instead, he reached for her hand. His eyes were wet, his voice low. "Emily, I didn't realize how much I've been neglecting us. I thought I was doing right by providing, but I see now I've been absent. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose us." That night, they sat for hours, talking like they hadn't in years. There were tears, apologies, and promises. It wasn't easy, and Emily knew healing would take time. But in that moment, she felt a glimmer of hope.